Hello students. Today in this session we are going to discuss on the organs and structures of the respiratory system. By the end of this section you will be able to list the structures that make up the respiratory system, describe how the respiratory system processes oxygen and carbon dioxide, and compare and contrast the functions of upper respiratory tract with the lower respiratory tract. Respiration is the process of breathing in and breathing out of air. By doing this, the oxygen which is needed by the cell for its cellular metabolism is supplied to the tissues and the cells. So, a respiratory system are the collection of organs which directly or indirectly are meant to support the process of respiration. The primary role of respiratory system, as mentioned earlier, is to provide oxygen to the body tissues for its cellular respiration, remove the waste products like carbon dioxide, and help to maintain acid-base balance of the body. Certain other non-vital functions are sense of smell, speech production, coughing, and so on. Functionally, the respiratory system are divided into conducting zone and respiratory zone. Conducting zone consists of organs and structures not directly involved in gaseous exchange. Here, they just help as a path or route for the air to enter in and leave out of the respiratory tract. The true gaseous exchange happens in the respiratory zone. If we look into the conducting zone, its structure and the function, the ultimate role is to channelize the air circulation, and it removes debris and pathogens from the incoming air. It also conditions the air by humidifying it and making the air warm. The major entrance and exit for the respiratory system is through the nose. Nose is divided into two regions, the external nose and the nasal cavity or the internal nose. The external nose consists of surface and skeletal structures that results in the outward appearance of the nose and contribute to its numerous functions. The root is the region of the nose that is located between the eyebrows. The bridge is the part of the nose that connects the root to the rest of the nose. The dorsum nasi is the length of the nose. It may vary from person to person. The apex is the tip of the nose. On either side of the apex, the nostrils are formed by the alae. In singular, it is called ala. An ala is a cartilaginous structure that forms the lateral side of each nares. In plural, they are called as nares or nostril opening. Several bones that help form the walls of the nasal cavity have air containing spaces called as the paranasal sinuses, which serves to warm and humidify the incoming air. Sinuses are lined with a mucosa. Each paranasal sinus is named for its associated bones: frontal sinus, maxillary sinus, sphenoidal sinus, and ethmoidal sinus. The sinuses produces the mucus and lighten the weight of the skull. The nares and anterior portion of the nasal cavities are lined with mucous membranes containing sebaceous glands and hair follicles that serve to prevent the passage of large debris such as dirt through the nasal cavity. The conditioned air enters the next stage, the pharynx. The pharynx is a tube that is formed by the skeletal muscles and lined by mucous membrane that is continuous with that of the nasal cavities. The pharynx is divided into three major regions: the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. The nasopharynx is flanked by the concha of the nasal cavity, and it serves only as an airway. At the top of the nasopharynx are the pharyngeal tonsils. A pharyngeal tonsil, also called as adenoid, is an aggregate of lymphoid reticular tissue similar to a lymph node that lies at the superior portion of the nasopharynx. The function of the pharyngeal tonsil is not well understood, but it contains a rich supply of lymphocytes and is covered with ciliated epithelium which traps and destroys the pathogens that invades along with the inhalation. The major functions of pharynx are respiratory and digestive in nature. The muscles of the pharynx helps in the mechanism of swallowing and provide a pathway for the food to move from the mouth to the esophagus. When the tongue pushes the masticated food to back of the mouth, the windpipe closes and the food is moved into the pharynx. The muscle works to swallow the food and remove it into the esophagus. The pharynx allows the passage of inhaled air from the nose into the larynx, the windpipe, and then the lungs. The isthmus, which is the pathway that connects the oral and nasopharynxes, allows human to breathe through both the nose and the mouth. The pharynx works in tandem with other muscles related to speech to produce sound and also plays a role in sound resonation. As it is connected to the ear cavity on either side through the eustachian tubes, this helps in equalizing the pressure created by air on the eardrums. The lymphoid tissues found in the pharynx plays a small role in regulating the immune system of the body. The larynx is a cartilaginous structure inferior to the laryngopharynx that connects the pharynx to the trachea and helps regulate the volume of air that enters and leaves the lungs. The structure of the larynx is formed by several pieces of cartilages. Three large cartilage pieces, the thyroid cartilage in the anterior, epiglottis in the superior, and the cricoid cartilages located inferiorly, form the major structure of the larynx. The thyroid cartilage is the largest piece of cartilage that makes up the larynx. They consist of laryngeal prominences, or famously known as Adam apple, which tends to be more prominent in male. The thick cricoid cartilage forms a ring with a wide posterior region and a thinner anterior region. Three smaller paired cartilages, the arytenoid, corniculates, and cuneiforms, attached to the epiglottis and the vocal cords and muscles that help move the vocal cord to produce the speech. Larynx is more commonly called as the voice box. Next stage of the respiratory tract is the trachea. Trachea is also commonly called as windpipe. It extends from the larynx towards the lungs. The trachea is formed by 18 to 20 stacked C-shaped pieces of hyaline cartilage that are connected by dense connective tissue. Trachea branches into the right and left primary bronchi at the carina. The carina is a raised structure that contains specialized nervous tissue that induces violent coughing if a foreign body such as food is present. Rings of cartilages similar to those that is present in the trachea support the structure of the bronchi also and prevent them from collapsing. The primary bronchi enters the lungs at the hilum, a concave region where blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves also enter the lungs. The bronchi continues to branch into bronchial tree. A bronchial tree is a collective term used for these multiple branched bronchi. A bronchiole branches from the tertiary bronchi. Bronchioles, which are about 1 mm in diameter, further branches until they become the tiny terminal bronchioles, which lead to the structure of gas exchange. There are more than 1000 terminal bronchioles in each lungs. The muscular wall of the bronchioles do not contain cartilage like those of the bronchi. This muscular wall can change the size of the tubing to increase or decrease airflow through the tube. In contrast to the conducting zone, the respiratory zone includes structures that are directly involved in gas exchange. The respiratory zone begins where the terminal bronchiole meets a respiratory bronchiole, which then leads to an alveolar duct that opens into a cluster of alveoli. An alveolar duct is a tube composed of smooth muscle and connective tissue, which opens into a cluster of alveoli. An alveolus is one of the many small grape-like sacs that are attached to the alveolar duct. An alveolus is approximately 200 micrometer in diameter with elastic walls that allow the alveolus to stretch during air intake, which greatly increases the surface area available for gas exchange. Alveoli are connected to their neighbors by alveolar pores, which help maintain equal air pressure throughout the alveoli and lungs. The alveolus is called the structural and functional unit of the respiratory system because the true purpose of respiration, that is the gaseous exchange, happens only in the alveoli. Hence it is called so. This marks the end of this first module, the respiratory system. Thanks for watching, and in the next module we will be discussing on the mechanism of ventilation.